Okay. You there, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool, it's coming through. Do you want to just say a couple of words?
About myself, or
Yeah, just would you be able to give us your story? Basically, what happened to you in the, with the psychiatric industry, and how were you damaged, and how it all happened.
well, in my case, it's very complicated, but I'll try to keep it simple, I guess.
Yeah.
But my incident, I'd say, would have, they haven't released any information to me under sneaky legislation that claims it would affect the patient. So I barely know anything about the treatment, but I can pinpoint where it could have started. I visited the hospital in Cairns for a twisted ankle. Me and my friends were doing a bit of martial arts practice in the backyard, and I woke up the next day and my Achilles was screaming at me. So I went in there, and at the time I didn't think much of it, but one of the nurses who sat me in a wheelchair, after I talked to him for a little bit, he said, "Look, you seem like a decent guy, and I'll tell you something, but don't tell anybody I told you." And he said, "There's some dodgy things going on here. Be careful." And so I didn't think much of it. So I went and saw I don't know if that was a nurse or do they call them orderlies in the normal part of the hospital, I'm not quite sure. But so I went to the nurse, and they he had a little bit of a look at my foot, but not much. And then saw on my arm I've got a branding. It's kind of like a tattoo, but it's done with incense. It's like a tribal thing. And he started focusing on that and questioning me over and over about it. And I said, respectively, that's not really your job. I'm not here for that. I did that 10 years ago. Kind of mind your own business. I'm here for an injury. So he could have written something in the book. But anyway, fast forward a month or two. I hope this is not. I'm not draining on too much.
No, this is really interesting.
So fast forward a little bit, and I still hadn't worked out what was wrong with my foot. I was supposed to go see a specialist, I think. I'm not sure if I got around to that or had the money. I was walking around town on my day off from work, and I noticed how it's quite difficult to get across the road when you've got a little bit of an injury. No matter the green man doesn't stay on for long enough sometimes, and I kind of thought of kids and elderly people, how much trouble they might have. And next minute I saw that 8 school kids and a four-wheel drive slam its brakes on. I looked, the green man was flashing, and he got out of his car and said expletives to these, I guess they were about 11, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, and said, "I'll kill you little thieves if you do that again." And I walked sort of towards him and told him to chill out, calm down, and he put his fists up like he wanted to fight, and I didn't want to do anything, so I walked away and sort of escorted the kids off the road. They went their separate way, and then so this is probably the only part that's my fault, I guess. I kicked the tree because I was really angry at what I'd seen, and now here I am with 2 sore feet. So I went to this place where I'd got job counselling from them before. It was just through Centrelink. It wasn't anything to do with any problems I'd ever had. And so I went there to get a glass of water and to see if they could help me out with, I think they do food parcels and stuff, so I went there to see if they could help me with a bus voucher or see if they could just get me home. I had a polite conversation with one of the ladies there. I was a little upset, but not distressed and not angry at all. So I'm sitting there talking to her, and I guess she asked the 3 legal questions, like whether I was suicidal, homicidal, or whether I needed to go to the hospital about my foot. So about the foot, I said, "No, I've been to that hospital. I feel they're negligent, so I will be going to see a specialist. I just want to get home. If you can't help me, I'll wait till the friends finish work." She asked whether I wanted to hurt anybody. I said, "Not at all. I never have. I have no violent history." I said, "I regret that I didn't talk to that guy more sternly, and that he could run someone over the next day, but I did all I could." And I told her that upset me, that I couldn't do much else legally. And she said, "Are you suicidal?" And I said, "No." I said, "My life's not been terribly easy, and I have big goals. I've always wanted to be a singer, and I know I can do it. I'll get by, it gives me inspiration." She says, "I'll see if I can get you a voucher to get home." And I said, "Look, if you can't, it's fine. I'll work something out myself. It's no problem." Next to the police rock up.
Oh, God.
And they walked towards me, and I said, "Are you kidding?" And they said, "Are you Daniel Carter?" I said, "Yes." And they're like, "Come with me." So I had to go with them. I didn't want to physically resist them start an altercation. They took me to the hospital. Two old ladies spoke to me, said, you seem kind to us. You can go now. And I'm like, can you help me get home? This is at like 12 at night now. Still got my sore foot. So they gave me some crutches. I had to almost beg to get help to get a taxi home. So I was still in that same predicament. The lady said, look, we'll let you go tonight, but if you come back tomorrow to our outpatient centre and just have a chat to us voluntarily. Silly me, I did that. I spoke to some 21-year-old psychologist, I guess. Pretty much the same conversations, and I didn't like where it was headed. I said, look, it's been a nice conversation, but I think I'm going to go home. Not at any time did I say that I was suicidal. Never have I had suicide attempts. She said, oh, no. And I said, look, I'm going to go home politely, thank you. And she said, no, just wait here. And promptly got off her chair and sort of hurried into the hallway. I stood up and went to walk out, and there was two massive, orderly-looking guys. You're coming with me. Again, I didn't want to fight or be violent, so I went along with them. I was again seen by like a young 20-year-old girl who signed me in under the diagnosis of elevation, which, by the way, I had energy drinks the night before. Secondly, elevation is a form of white coat psychosis. So whenever
you just can't afford to talk to these people, can you?
No, exactly. So of course I'm going to be elevated in a situation where I know I can lose all my rights. So they signed me in under that. A little while into it, I got a piece of paper that said you'll be here for 6 months or until a psychiatrist signs you out. I think I saw my psych twice. He never verbally said I couldn't go. He only shook his head, and I found out why later. He was covering his butt legally. It turns out they claim I was voluntary for the first month when I was not. It's either that or they have me confused with another Daniel Carter. When I was finally released after being threatened with shock therapy, a nurse pulled me aside and said, you seem like a nice guy. Again, I'm going to tell you something. They're going to shock therapy you if you don't comply. And comply was not changing my behaviour. Nurses had said my behaviour was exemplary on many occasions. On 2 occasions, they confused me with a nurse. So this nurse said, just run, say the word and get out. Okay, so I left Cairns and went to the outpatient team in Ashmore because they wanted me to live with my mother at the Gold Coast. I went to Ashmore and I was there with my mother and they said, you're not Daniel Carter. Half an hour later they come back, there's another Daniel Carter with a birth date 1 day apart. It was just a clerical error. Again, later down the track, I started seeing that I pretty much fought my way off it. I said to the psychiatrist, I said, look, I'm not going to play this game anymore, let me off or we'll go to war. So that we have my civil rights back or we'll go to war. And she signed me off and let me go. But I kept looking into what was going on and it seemed suspect. What happened, there was a lot of flaws in paperwork. I rang them up and asked them for an out-of-court settlement, which they wouldn't do. They wouldn't release the medical records. So I basically committed a crime on purpose. I won't get into this, but this is after this. After all that stuff happened, I couldn't find a lawyer. They pretty much laughed at me and said, unless you have 50,000...
Listen, I don't want you to incriminate yourself, Daniel, because this is going to go public. So what
it does, you can edit it, so I don't mind. That's fine, because I've already said this to the judge, so I really don't mind.
Okay, so this has already gone. This has already gone public in a court.
This was a couple of years ago.
Yep.
So I won't get into the exact crime, but it was a thought crime legislation where someone who threatened me, I decided to give them my details of what happened to me and tell them to pass it on to the police or else. It was a kind of a bit of a silly move, but I got my time in court basically. I got given my duty solicitor who wouldn't play the game with me. She didn't really want to fight the true battle. She said, just got to bow down. I said, cool, I just want my medical records. She rings me up and says, they've sent me the wrong Daniel Carter's medical records. I said, this is exactly what happened 2.5 years ago, exactly why I'm here now with you. She said, we don't have a professional relationship anymore, and hung up the phone and stopped being my lawyer.
It's shocking. Yeah.
So anyway, after that, there's a lot more to it, but basically now I've created my page in psychiatry. I've always wanted to sing and make the world a better place, and I feel like the site's kind of played into my hands.
Man, that's an incredible story. I mean, I guess you're totally aware of the story of what's his name, Daniel. The other, Bernard. Oh, it's just slipped my mind, from Victoria.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And Clint Palmer. Clint Palmer was a similar situation. He was sequestered under the wrong identity into a psychiatric facility, and he was ECT'd incredibly for a long time, and now he's institutionalised, and it was all due to a false identity, and it was all orchestrated by his ex.
And because of the arbitrariness of psychiatric diagnoses, and the circular reasoning undermined. So if you cause on mentally ill and all of a sudden the evidence on you is clean.
Yeah,
so
they
get away with it by calling that label.
They act like God, don't they? And they just circumvent your human rights totally.
Exactly.
They're unbelievably bad.
I've been off the inventory probably for about 3 years or 3.5.
Yeah. It's getting harder and it's getting harder and harder to hear you, Daniel. You're not moving around or anything. It's.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I was upstairs before. I'm downstairs. I was just getting off the water.
Sorry about that, mate. I'll just wait till you're in a better spot. Otherwise, the voice comes through a bit muffled.
No worries. Is that sounding better?
Yeah, it sounds better. Yeah.
Better? Yeah, sweet.
Must be better internet wherever you are now.
We've got to help those guys out. I think last time I heard, Garth Daniels was getting his treatment through that Aussie psychiatrist Neil McLaren.
Look, it was, and he went to Queensland. I was talking to his dad recently, and they were trying to again get power of attorney over him. And I suggested a few things, for instance, private suit, etc., and going in that direction. So, and to get legal advice on that, because I'm certainly not a lawyer, but for me, it's a case of actions speak louder than words, and unless you're prepared to actually do something, like actually take them to court individually, privately, on a private basis, they don't back off. You've really got to attack them. Otherwise, they're just not going to back off, because if you continue to send them letters and stuff, they're just going to ignore it, and they're just going to work using their act or whatever their statute is. And that statute seems to give them carte blanche as far as standing all over your human rights. You're supposed to, according to, Australia is a signatory to the United Nations Human Rights, and according to that, they're not supposed to medicate without your consent, but they go ahead and do it anyway. And so it actually opens them to personal suit.
Yeah, so we get the benefits of being part of the UN, but then we don't respect your treaties.
We have to, and I've actually created a document that explains how to defend your human rights in court with the help of a friend of mine, Darren. Yeah. So I can put you onto that document, but I think it's extremely important.
My followers and stuff as well. Yeah. That's the thing. Knowledge is power, and a lot of the people who get targeted don't have a lot of knowledge. And a lot of skills to defend from it intellectually. Yeah. So that's why it's the easiest battle for the government to pick on the minorities.
Yes, I think
we want to silence. We're not supposed to do that in a civilization. We're supposed to protect minority speech, but we are dosing it. It's disgusting.
I think in Australia it's become corporate tyranny, and it really is a corporate fascist. We become corporate fascists, this country, and they just work on presumptions. They just presume that all of their statutes apply to you, even though you're not a member of their government, you're not a member of their corporation. But they continue to insidiously use the courts and the police to enforce their policies.
When I was in court for the... sorry, you continue.
Yeah, no, that's it. I've finished. Yeah, go ahead.
When I was in court for the crime, I did it on purpose to get a lawyer. I in the crime itself, which was words, text message, in the so-called crime itself, it said exactly what happened to me and exactly how the state violated my civil rights. It had my exact name in there. It was pretty detailed. And obviously, it's a bit left of centre, but it needed to be done. I had no other option. So I mentioned that to the judge. What's the word I'm looking for right now? Mitigating circumstances. In Australia and New Zealand, I believe it needs to be civil rights or strong humanitarian grounds for committing a crime, and it can be mitigated either entirely or somewhat. And I mentioned that it was written into the crime, and I actually wrote it in there for him to make it easy. My mitigating circumstances are there, but no, that wasn't part of his case, and he didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear how supposedly the state says and the people say that my words are more dangerous and more uncivil than someone forcing brain-altering chemicals into me. So apparently my expression. And they're lucky, to be honest, that I still use my words. I'm still intelligent enough and compassionate enough and understanding enough to continue using my words.
Now,
Instead of doing what a lot of these other children do who have no options and they don't have the intellect or the knowledge to take their frustrations elsewhere, and they do really horrible things.
What sort of mind-altering drugs did they enforce on you, Daniel?
So they started off with, I think, risperidol, lithium, Seraphin, or Seroquel, or both, Valium. They just kept upping the dose no matter how well I was behaving. I was never violent to anyone.
So do you think their objective was to make you institutionalised, so you then would become a paying customer, basically?
I think so, yeah. It was either monetary or, I don't know, or over duty of care, an overreach of duty of care, maybe, or, because the legislations are arbitrary, anyone can fall into it. I don't know if it was very misplaced good intentions that lead to hell or what it was, but I'll never know, and I don't really mind. I'm happy that I have the inspiration.
Now, how long did it take you to recover from your drug overdoses?
Well, it's hard to say. So when I was in there, they had me on the pills, and they decided to start injecting me because I wasn't politically compliant.
God, this
so I was obviously very civil the whole time, but I politically resisted, told them it was uncivil what they're doing, refused to the point where they would have to get violent, and that's when I would no longer refuse because I didn't want to become uncivil. So then they started injecting me. One of the nurses actually cried when injecting me because she knew I didn't deserve it, but she was just doing her job. I told her to quit. So yeah, when I was released, I was on the shots, the risperidol shots, for about 2 months or so until I fought my way off the involuntary community treatment.
You certainly don't want to continue in a job if you're harming people just by following orders. I mean, the Nuremberg trials were very specific that the soldiers that were inflicting harm, even though they were following orders, were actually infringing people's rights and were responsible.
Exactly.
And it's exactly the same with that nurse and anyone who is following orders but inflicting harm, and especially those that know they're inflicting harm, and they do know they're doing it.
Well, I regularly let them know that they are mental health nurses, that they are open to prosecution for torture in court, regardless, because the law obviously changes all the time. What they're doing is unlawful and immoral. Yeah. So they are open to it, as far-fetched as that is, and as long as it may take. They're open to prosecution for torture.
So
I'm not sure if they realise that.
Have you attempted that track yet, Daniel, to obtain redress?
Attempted what? Sorry?
Attempted the track of prosecution to obtain redress?
No, well, that's what I did to start with, and then no one would help me on my case.
Yeah, just got too
mistaken identity. So I've decided just to rely on my musical talents, and I'd rather inspiration than compensation.
Yeah,
and
you get mired in the legal mud, don't you? It just becomes too hard.
I think I can't. I came to a point where I realised maybe these things happening for a reason, and it is quite a quandary for me to work out that my torturers actually gave me everything I needed for my music. And I always wanted that, so I can't work out if it's a selfish endeavour or not, but I'm willing to put myself on the line and in the line of fire to do the right thing. And regardless of what I might get accused of, I'm going to be peaceful and do all I can to stop this. Peaceful where I can.
Yeah, look, and I'm quite happy to support you and try and get the message out there. Now, you have done some music. Look, I won't record it over this phone line because it's probably not a good one, but I know that you've sent me some, and I'll, with your permission, include it on the end of this recording. Is that the one you'd like to include, or have you done any others?
Well, I was
Specific
wanting
words?
to do, if you could give me maybe 48 hours and I could get you something new.
Plenty of time, man. I am. I don't know whether you realise, but I've got stacks of stuff on my plate. So, there's plenty of time. So I'll wait for that and include this on the end because what I'd really like from you is one of your rap songs that clearly enunciates the message so people can hear it and
no flirting worth the second stuff. Not now. I'll keep it chill.
Listen, mate, is there anything else you want to say?
Not really, except in psychiatry.
Yeah, I reckon.
It's just something less destructive and it's not guilty of crimes against humanity.
It's just shocking. They do not respect or honour human rights whatsoever. And I think it's very similar with a lot of things today. They follow their statutes or their requirements to the letter without taking into account the fact that this is a human being. And I think it's also become a monetary thing where they're using people to make money for their industry.
It's a money thing and a lack of tribality in our lives, a lack of community separation. So
listen,
mate, to point the finger at people when we don't understand them. But yeah, so thank you, and I'm sure we'll chat more about this topic. I'll get some music to you really soon too.
Absolutely, I really appreciate your time to get this message out, and hopefully we can get to others and get this message to people that can actually sort of make a difference and stop this stuff happening.
Definitely, I'm confident that we will.
All right, mate, I'll let you go on that. Thanks for that very much.
No worries, talk soon. Have a lovely day. Bye.
See you, Daniel. Bye.